Welcome back to the Slide Job Podcast. I'm your host, Colton Smith, or Left Turn Central. I'm here joined by producer Josh Northcutt and co-host Brandon Bull Davis. Bull, Josh, how was your week? I know Josh had a great weekend. How was your vacation, Bull?
It was fun. Glad to be back. It's been a while. Glad to be back. Talk a little NASCAR.
Josh, I guess how was your weekend?
I mean, I was a driver away from almost completing the first top five sweep. Or no, I think I had three of the top five, if I remember.
Yeah, I was going to say Chase and Bell were mine.
But then
you almost had all five. First one to have all five finish in the top 10.
Yeah.
Right. And who was your Keselowski? If you would have had Chastain instead of Keselowski. Well, no,
Which,
you had all top 10 at Homestead. It's just you didn't have the winner and you didn't pick the winner.
Correct. Yeah.
So you almost were the second person to do it.
Behind myself.
Behind yourself.
the last 2 weeks I've been really, really good. And it's one of the things that I kind of like short tracks because a lot of times the good drivers who are good at short tracks are going to be the drivers that are going to be up there no matter what. Case in point, Ryan Blaney being able to drive from 32nd all the way up to the front. Obviously didn't have the fastest car to get ahead of Denny, which we will talk about. But darn, Denny won.
That progressive car did look good in victory lane.
Sure did. It's the happiest I've ever been to see Denny there.
Yeah, I'm sure you have. But Bull, I'm glad you're back, man. I don't know if I could have done another episode just me and Josh. We need you to be the middleman here. But there's not really too much to recap when it comes to recapping the race. I mean, stage one, we saw Bell go out to lead off the pole. Chase Elliott had the faster long run car, so he took the lead. Hamlin ended up getting the lead through some strategy and won stage one. We saw a bunch of two tires staying out and different strategies throughout the first two stages. I think Logano's one that stayed out, then pit, and then stayed out again or something and got the lead from that. But at the end of the day, we got Hamlin in the lead in stage three, and he was just miles above everyone. Chase Elliott was probably the only one that had anything for him, but once you got about 50 or 60 laps into the run, Hamlin is just coasting throughout. Chase finally starts falling off, and that's what happened with Bell when Bell got up there. Chase could have finished in second if not for a pit crew issue that cost him like a couple seconds and a couple spots. He just didn't have enough to get past Bubba Wallace, who had a fast car. But, I mean, at the end of the day, Denny Hamlin on these new soft tires, which is definitely a talking point to have as an advantage for him, never really had to use up all his stuff. Just kind of – it felt like he just coasted around the track because somebody, I think Harvick or Boyer, somebody on the broadcast made the point was every time Bell specifically, but also Elliott would like get within the 0.3 of him, like, oh, maybe he'll make a move. Well, then Hamlin gets a 10th faster and a 10th faster. And then he coast and Bell would get back up again. And it would just be that endless until Bell finally fell off and Hamlin just pulled away. And his car got better when it got into traffic, it almost felt like, because Bell, he had the stuff to get through the traffic, whereas Bell did not have that same push. So absolutely dominating performance from Hamlin. And I mean, we got a lot of tracks coming up here that fit that same style, that have that same softer tire. So we could see a run out of Hamlin here pretty soon. But Bull, I'll start with you. I know you have a lot to say. So what do you think of that race?
It's Denny's world. We're all just living in it. We got to watch the Denny Hamlin Invitational Sunday. I don't know if you all listened to the Denny podcast, but it was funny. Last week he was talking about his driving style, how his driving style allows him to save his tires. And on the beginning of runs, he's not faster than some guys, but over the long haul, he's able to maintain that speed. And that's exactly how the race played out Sunday. He was able to maintain his speed. And just like you mentioned, as soon as guys would close in, he was able to pull away. Bell, I think it was stage 2, Elliott was about to pass him.
Yep.
And lap traffic, and Hamlin ended up putting a second or two on him and pulled away. So Hamlin's car, he was fast. He looked good. All the Toyotas looked good. Swept the podium. Hamlin, Bell, Bubba, Toyotas all look good. And got to give a shout out to a guy that we've talked about on here the last couple weeks, not having good races. Gibbs, he had a good race this week. Looked good.
Could have been better if Reddick didn't get into him.
He got into a few incidents, but he ended up still salvaging a good finish and had a good race. So maybe that put a good confidence in him, and he can bring that going forward.
Josh?
Yeah, so the one person I wanted to mention outside, the Denny Hamlin Invitational, is Bull beautifully described it, and it accurately described it because, genius me picked him to win. But no.
Genius you almost picked Larson to win.
Sure did.
Boy,
sure
would I love if that happened.
Sure did. Oh, dude, that would have ate me alive.
A 30-point decision right there.
But shout out to Ryan Preece. Top 10 finish again. Short track guy. We're going to another similar short track as we were talking about before the show, Colton and Darlington, and then Bristol. I don't think Preece is going to go anywhere. I think Preece has the stuff that if they can find a way up front, you could legit see Ryan Preece win a race over the next two races. Your boy Chase Elliott looked really fast. He was laying down fastest laps left and right. It's just he couldn't make his way through the three Toyotas. Shout out, obviously, Kyle Larson doing his thing. And then Todd Gilliland, top 10. Gilliland, not Gillian, right? Gilliland.
Yeah.
Thank you. Top 10 finish, very nicely done for in the Classic 34.
Yeah. It was Ryan Preece. That's a great point. The thing about Preece is he came out of nowhere because he was one of my drivers, and I would always keep an eye out for him. And he was always just sitting in that 20 to 30th range the entire race. And all of a sudden in stage 3, when all those restarts happened, he found himself in the top 20 and then the top 15. I'm like, nice, 5 points. And then at the end of the race, it ended up being a top 10, 7th place. And that's huge credit. That's kind of a short trackers type of day, and ended up being the best finishing Roush car. Busher got spun early and was never able to recover from that. It was another one of those races where all my guys were in the top 10 to start the race. And if we did our points based on before the first caution, I'd be 200 points ahead of everybody else. But unfortunately, that's not what we go off of. Byron has his first bad race of the season.
I'm gonna say first race he has not led a lap all year.
Mm-hmm.
Colton, you are an ultimate jinx.
I am. It seriously is. Like, it's not even funny how bad it is, but maybe this week will be different.
And then I wanted to get your guys' thoughts. Bull, looking at those race results, 34th SVG. Every week we are literally just keeping an eye on SVG. I promise we're not trying to repeat ourselves, but Bull looks smarter and smarter as we go through. The dude he just can't get it done unless it's at a road course. And if Bull's correct, and we got these ringers with just ultimate talent, such as Reddick, such as I'm going to put Cindric in there, but he also had another bad race. SVG disappointing with that 34th finish.
This track kind of sets up 4 road course guys with the braking, and he still couldn't get it done. So kind of sets up my point, my hot take a few weeks ago, where he's going to be gone. I said 2 years. If he keeps up 34th place finishes, it might be sooner than that.
Yeah. No, I agree. For some reason, I feel like he gets the benefit of the doubt, especially if he ends up getting a win, which, like you mentioned, is not confirmed. So that kind of brings the kind of consensus around Trackhouse is that Daniel Suarez will get the boot for Zilich at the end of the year. But, I mean, Suarez didn't get the finish today, but once again, he found himself in the top 15, didn't finish there. He needs to get better at that, which has kind of just been a knock on him his whole career. But do you see a world if Suarez is able to finish where he started on some of these races, that SVG gets the boot for Zilich and Suarez survives another year, which I honestly hope that's the case. but I know it's still up in the air.
I don't see anybody for Trackhouse getting a win this year.
Really? Not even Chastain.
I don't. I think they're off. I think Mr. Hendrick, ever since he showed Ross who daddy was, he's been off. Suarez, he has the one win in Atlanta last year, and everybody knows my opinion on SVG. I just don't think anybody gets a win for them this year. I think they're going to have big shakeups in the offseason.
I think Chastain will find a way. He'll drive through somebody.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you're talking clean wins, I would agree with you. However, I feel like Chastain's due for a absolute dumping, which I thought Chase might dump Chastain. I think we were getting too late in the race.
I'm going to say, I thought we were about to watch Chastain dump Larson when they were getting into it.
Well, Chastain about dumped Chase, and if so, I would have been on a plane right now on my way to Watermelon Country, Florida. Just talk to him. I just want to talk to him. But speaking of reckless driving, we can circle back to the race if we need to. I think it's a good time to talk about the Xfinity race, though, as it has sparked probably the most controversy of the weekend. Sammy Smith was one of many incidents. The truck race had incidents as well throughout the weekend, but it was the biggest one because it was on the final lap. It was for the race win. Sammy Smith just doesn't even try to race cleanly to win the race and dumps Taylor Gray, who was clearly the most deserving driver in the field. It's Taylor, right? Not Tanner?
Taylor, yeah. Taylor,
okay. The 54, definitely the fastest car, and gets dumped. Sammy Smith doesn't even win. It ended up being Austin Hill from like 5th place or something gets the win, but ends up ruining the 54's race, ruining his race in the process, and causing a huge pileup on the front straightaway. I don't think there's a single person other than Sammy Smith that believes he was in the right, because Sammy Smith didn't apologize, didn't back down. No, he packed up. It's what we got to do. It's what we got to do. No, it's not. You didn't even win the race. People who say it's what we have to do to make it in the playoffs typically win the race. You didn't win the race. So, Bull, I'll let you start because I know you've had some comments on this in the past. So, what did you think about this inciting incident?
So, you got to go back to not the final restart, the restart before the final restart. Taylor Gray was leading. There was Sammy Smith punted Taylor Gray to get the lead, and it wasn't even a put the bumper to him to like a clean move him out of the way, give him the bumper, Rubbins racing. It was just flat out move him. So that's how Sammy Smith got the lead. So then that led to somebody in the back of the pack, 10th place, roughly, got a spin, led to the final caution. So Taylor Gray lined up behind Sammy Smith. And in my opinion, Taylor Gray did it a lot cleaner than I would have. He gave him a little shot, passed him pretty clean, a lot cleaner than Sammy Smith did to him. And then that was in turn 1-2. And then final lap, coming out of 4, Sammy Smith came from about 4 or 5 cars back and full send, cleaned him out, collected Allgaier. I don't even remember who else, and allowed Austin Hill to came from 5th or 6th place to win the race. I don't understand it. I was looking today on Twitter. Seth Eggert tweeted there was 104 caution laps in a 250 lap race. It wasn't just the final stage. The whole race was like that. It wasn't just Sammy Smith. Sammy Smith is what got this conversation started, but this whole race was terrible.
And correct me if I'm wrong, and I could be way off on this. Usually the joke of that is that happens in the truck series. Like Friday night in America, NASCAR Truck Series, is usually just a caution fest. It's a lot of young guys driving out there reckless, not exactly knowing how to handle their cars. Which, don't get me wrong, I'm sitting here at home watching. I don't know how to handle a car either. But
oh no, don't worry. They're just like you. Just their daddy paid money for them to be in the truck.
But so it was crazy to see. But when I heard Sammy defend himself, that was just wild. I was like, Ross Chastain doesn't even do that. I mean, you clearly were in the wrong. Just admit you wanted to go for a win. It's not that it's the right thing to do. But I don't know. I don't know if there's any cleaning it up, I would say. The only thing that could be scary is that some of these guys are going to be racing on Sundays soon. And how will that start affecting our Sunday races? Because if we've got more, quote-unquote, Carson Hocevar.
I was about to call Carson Hocevar.
Yeah, or Ross Chastain full sended in lap 1, we're in for some trouble when it comes to NASCAR.
Yeah, it's going to look very, very ugly. I'm sure this will be a conversation that will come back and around throughout the entirety of this podcast. So I think we'll leave it there unless you have something else, Bull.
104 caution laps in a 250 lap race.
I'm glad I missed that race.
That is the 5th most caution laps, though, of all time.
Wow. Just across all series?
Of Xfinity.
Xfinity, okay.
And of the top 10, 4 of the races have been Martinsville.
I mean, Martinsville, there's such a fine line with Martinsville where, like, we love the pushing, the shoving, and all of that. Sammy Smith crossed that line. Many other people crossed that line. And Dale Jr. said it best, Martinsville just deserves better because it's devolving into just chaos. It doesn't help that Martinsville ends up being the cutoff race or was the cutoff race for a while into Homestead. So I think that's all we got for the warm-up lap. So, Josh, if you want to take over for flying the flag.
Absolutely. We'll start with you first, Bull. NASCAR should penalize drivers for reckless driving. I already know your answer, but go ahead and share anyway.
I'm going to go yellow. Yellow flag. I think if you're talking Xfinity Series, as we discussed, it was the whole race. The whole series would have been penalized Saturday night. So I don't know how you could manage that, but something has to be done. And then, as we were discussing before, the comments that were made Sunday, it's not really a dumpster fire because dumpster fires are contained. So something has to be done. And then Sunday, that was one thing that I did like about Martinsville that I did enjoy. The race Sunday did lead to a few rivalries that I think we're going to have. We're going to have Ross versus Logano coming up, and that is one that I'm looking forward to.
It's funny because Ross is who everyone sees Logano as, but Logano would never see himself as that. Logano's two-faced for that. But for me, I'm calling it a yellow for the same reasons Bull said. I don't think there's any way we can really penalize that. And it's another thing. I really hesitate to give NASCAR more officiating decisions, more control over of stuff like that. So there needs to be a solution, but I'm not fully convinced that is a solution. But I don't have one on me, so I guess if that's what we have to do, it's what we have to do. But what do you think, Josh?
I'll stay with yellow as well. I guess you two kind of talked me off of it because originally in a situation such as Ross Chastain, that should be penalized. I don't know if that means going to the back of the field, taking a few laps down, how exactly to judge that. But maybe NASCAR finds a way to have someone else rule on that rather than NASCAR themselves, such as a veteran drivers group, like former drivers come together and decide. But even then, you're going to have some bias. So,
yeah, absolutely.
But the way that I look at it, Josh, is how can you penalize Sunday? There was a few incidences on Sunday, but how can you penalize them on Sunday when the crap that was going on Saturday, there was no penalties? There was a few incidences on Saturday, on Sunday. I've never seen Mr. Busher get fired up but he was fired up, and I think he would have ripped Carson's head off if he could have got to him in stage 2 there.
I was going to
But
say, I didn't remember who it was that Busher got into it, but they even brought up on the broadcast that, like, that's not Chris Busher. But I think that's just a story of a difficult season so far, and we can talk about that at a later date. So moving on, Colton, the tire compound was a success even without the option.
Yellow on the side of green. I'm not fully sold because, to be fair, that third stage was pretty boring, but that's just Hamlin being good. But outside of that, I think it was a success. It got us back. I mean, look at the rubber on the side of all those cars, all the rubber that came off the tires and created some different lines and options. I think at the end of the day, probably a green. I just am biased because of what the result was.
Bull.
I'm going to go yellow for the same reason. If we had option tire, if we had that red soft compound tire, stage 3 could have been more interesting. The Denny Hamlin Invitational make it have got something broken up a little bit more.
Yeah, I'm just going to go red because I really want the option tires back. So I'm going to keep banging that or waving that flag, whatever you want to say. So I'm going to be stubborn.
You do know these are the option tires we were running, right?
The double?
Yeah, they ran like the closer to the option tire than your normal tire. I don't know if it was exactly your option tire, but it was.
But I want the option. I want two different
option.
tires. I want 2 different tires. Sorry. That better? That worded?
Yeah. I was just making sure you knew that. I didn't know.
Okay. Yeah. And then last but not least, I'll answer this one first. NASCAR will never get back to the respect drivers had for each other in the old days. I think that might be correct. It's actually kind of funny. While all other sports seem to have too much respect for each other, shout out the NBA.
Shout out the NBA.
Sorry, Colton.
You say that after what happened last night. Too.
Hey,
you're right, but it's crazy time.
Detroit's a different story, all right? You put that
Detroit has no respect
on, you're going to start throwing those. But no, in all seriousness, I'm going to wave the green flag on that. I think Kyle Petty, I don't know if you saw his latest sit down with Harvick, but his spiel of how these kids are even just taught, if you're not finishing first, you're not going to be noticed. So if you got to put somebody in a wall, you're going to do it. Not something horrible that happened, but how many times did Tony Stewart run into incidents out there on the dirt track because people were trying to beat Tony and wreck Tony because of the whole, that's Tony Stewart. If I beat Tony Stewart, my name's going to be noticed. Mm-hmm. I just feel like it's a name game rather than a respect for the race game. We don't have the likes of Rusty, and I know it's going to be a good laugh out of this, but like Rusty and Dale, or even Dale and Jeff, they had a competition. They thrived off beating each other, but they had a respect for each other that they would talk and share a beer. Rusty and Dale were going to walk away from the racing together. It's why Rusty retired early. What's your thoughts, Colton?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think there's a level of like they're not doing anything too indifferent than what Dale would do from time to time back in the day. However, Dale was a man of his word, and Dale just did what Dale did, and nobody, you could fight him back, but at your own risk, and I just feel like it's not the same. And yeah, I think that's just a general thing. Yeah, just nobody has respect, and it's part of just like it being handed to you now. Like even Dale Jr. didn't have to earn it as hard as everyone else, but even he had to earn a level of respect in the garage. Hocevar is pretty well a paid driver with talent. Ty Gibbs is another one where they never really had to earn anything and just kind of got handed what they have to this day and have no reason to earn any respect from anybody. So,
Amble.
I agree. I'm going to go green flag. And I think a lot of it is the result of this new car. They wanted parity in the sport, and they've got it. You've got, just like Colton said, you've got newcomers up that didn't earn it. They didn't earn. They haven't came up and earned that and learned how to go fast and save their tires. They just got in it and gone with daddy's money and stuff like that. And so now you've got young guns up there running with the guys who've got the experience and know how to save their tires and have gained that experience. And that doesn't go well sometimes. And that respect is earned, not given. Shout out Calipari.
Yep.
But yeah. So I think green flag on that one.
Yep.
Oh,
I agree.
Back to you, sir.
Not with the Calipari part, but so let's go ahead and bring in one overreaction from Martinsville. Mine is going to be that Denny Hamlin is going to win the 2025 championship. That is what's happening this year. No, I'm not trying to reverse jinx it, but think about it. Martinsville is the cutoff race. If I'm not, it used to be. I know it's in the final round. That's the bottom line. Martinsville is in that round of 8, and that leads right into Phoenix. Both of those tracks are tracks that are going to use no option tires, but the option compound that was on the option tire at Phoenix. Both those races should have that. So that means what's going to be paramount instead of car, it's going to be tires. Well, who's the best at that? Denny Hamlin. I think they found their championship winning setup here in week 7, and I think the 11 is going to get her done this year.
By the way, it is officially the cutoff, Colton. I looked into it.
Okay. I thought it was last year, but I wasn't sure.
Yeah, Las Vegas, Talladega, Martinsville is that.
Talladega?
Well, yeah, Talladega's in the final 3 now. Las Vegas, Talladega, Martinsville.
Why?
Bull, what's your hot take?
So my hot take is Bubba Wallace is going to make the championship 4 this year. If you look at the way the playoffs set up, he's been running well at all the tracks so far this year. If he makes it through the round of 16 does not set up well for him. But if he makes it through the round of 16, the round of 12 and the round of 8 set up perfect for him. The round of 12 has Kansas, which is one of his best tracks. And then the next round has Talladega, which is another really good track for him, and Martinsville, both tracks which he's really good at. Talladega, which he's won at, and Martinsville, which he's won at in the Truck Series, and then yesterday ran 3rd at. So I think he's going to make the playoffs this year. If he can make it through that first round, I think he is set up to make the Final 4. I also have one other one that just side note.
Go ahead.
The crew chief suspension for tires coming off with the new next gen on 1 lug nut is the dumbest rule in NASCAR. I get it when there was 5 lug nuts, they might have told them to leave 2, 3 loose for a quicker stop. But with 1 lug nut, the crew chief's not telling them to leave it loose. You got to get rid of that rule.
Yeah. That's not a hot take. That's just facts. Absolute facts. But to circle back to your point to Bubba really quick, yeah, I really like how he started this season. He's 8th in the points now, and he would have been higher, but Denny Hamlin ended up passing him. But he's been fast at pretty much every race. He's shown speed, and that's something we didn't really see from him last year. It'd be very once every a few races he'd be up there. And I think it's a lot to do with his new crew chief. That always a lot of confidence in there, a lot of confidence from Bubba, a lot of confidence from the crew chief. His name slipped in my mind, but he's from the Truck Series. He's a guy who is taking his first crack at the Cup Series, which can be a good or bad thing. I think so far it's proved to be good because you don't know what you haven't seen yet and haven't been experienced yet. So far, nailing it.
He also talked about having a kid in the off season and how that's changed his outlook on everything. And he's took that different outlook into racing as well. And he's just had a new outlook on everything. He's took that different positivity And as he said yesterday, having fun is fun. So
Yeah.
So mine is not so much of a hot take, but more just a question for you guys who understand the sport a little bit better than I do.
Mhm.
Why does Tyler Reddick suck so bad at short tracks?
You know, Bull, you got anything?
To clarify, gentlemen, he has done 18s in the next gen car race. He has an average finish of 20th place, only 1 top 5, 3 top 10s, and 10 top 20s. And he's only led 96 laps. This is a guy that we all talk about being a possible champion. But if he can't get a little bit better at these short tracks,
Well, he's not going to win Phoenix.
well,
So
you got
until
Las,
that
yeah,
changes.
and then you got Las Vegas, Talladega, Martinsville. Las Vegas and Martinsville won't. No, he's pretty good at Las Vegas, right? I know he's decent at Talladega, but that's a coin flip. But if it comes down to him in maybe 5th or 6th place, and he needs to pull something off at Martinsville,
not going to happen.
He's no longer in my top 4 when I talk playoffs. That I was almost positive was done just a few weeks ago. So I didn't know if you guys had any insight on why he would be so bad here, because it is horrendous how bad he is.
You got anything, Bull? I've never understood it either, to be honest.
It's something I've never really thought about, honestly. The 1.5 miles he's great at, road courses he's great at.
Mm-hmm.
He's gotten better at super speedways. I do think, though, as much as he has improved in the other at road courses, I think learning from Denny, I do think he could improve at the short tracks and get better at those. But
He can't get much worse.
That's true.
I wonder if it has something to do with his driving style and saving tires.
He doesn't do much of that.
That's what I was going to say. I know he's known for riding against the wall. Obviously, that doesn't happen too often at these short tracks. Is it just like
if you're riding the wall at Martinsville, you're either Ross Chastain in the round of 8 or you're having a rough day. But yes,
so that was just my question about it.
Because I would like to take out Bristol, because if I remember correctly, he's not bad at Bristol.
Well, you can run the wall at Bristol. So
take out Bristol and compare his short tracks with the other short tracks besides Bristol.
Fun fact: if it's not Bristol dirt, it's his 3rd worst track.
Really?
That's surprising.
Okay.
To me.
Average finish 22.5. He has never had a top 10 finish. What we're blinded by is how dominant he was on the dirt.
Yeah, I guess so.
But the other Bristol, he is just horrible at. Martinsville, he's really bad at. What's the other short track? Just clarify.
Richmond.
He's middle of the pack in Richmond, and then Darlington this week is a top 10 track. But Bristol Dirt, Indy, and Pocono are his top 3, which aren't great. So
yeah, that's interesting. I've noticed that in the past. But I'm glad you brought that up, because I don't think that's anything people tend to talk about. And I wouldn't have an answer for you, really, because, I mean, he clearly came up dirt racing, short tracks. That tends to – I guess it's not the same, dirt racing and short tracks, because Priest and Barry were more pavement short track oriented, if I'm not mistaken. I know definitely Barry was. And so those are 2 drivers that when you get to Martinsville and you get to Bristol, you expect them to do well. And Priest did that. Barry would have done that if he didn't have his issues. And I would have liked to see what would have happened if Barry – we didn't mention that. He had some battery issues, but he pulled away from the field. Yeah, he pulled away from the field with 40 laps less tires. He's somebody that knows how to save his tires for sure. I'm curious to see what he could do at a Martinsville in a round of 8 if he were to ever make it that far. But that's besides the point. Yeah, it's a good thing. Something we should definitely keep an eye on throughout the season. We got these short tracks coming up. See how Reddick does, because he has kind of fallen off. He's somebody that we had in our early power ranking top 5s, but he's kind of gone under the radar. Homestead was one of his better tracks, but he was absolute zero factor just around the top 10, ended up in the top 10 there. So Kind of interesting to see Bubba Wallace, I would definitely say so far, has outperformed Reddick outside of that road course. But I guess it's time to mention the power rankings. So let's go ahead and get into this week's power rankings. Josh, I'll go ahead and let you start.
All right. Number 5, I'm just going to move him down one spot. I'm going to keep Alex Bowman in there. I should mention the honorable mention would be Chase Elliott and Bubba Wallace, but I'm going to keep Bowman at number 5. He's got more top 10s than both those drivers that I mentioned, and that was kind of the breaking point. Number 4, I'm going to move down William Byron. Yes, I know that's probably a little bit of a hot take, but I'm going to put him underneath the next 2 drivers of Denny Hamlin and Kyle Larson. Kyle Larson comes in at number 2. Had a very, very good week. Hamlin, there's really no explanation, but I need to see more of it on other tracks, not just the short track king. We're going to a place where, again, Larson, Byron, Logano all do pretty well, and, of course, Hamlin. And then number 1, he had a good race. If I remember correctly, he finished ahead of Larson and Byron, obviously not Hamlin, but the 3 wins will keep him up. Now, if for some reason, again, Byron, Larson, or Hamlin win this week, might have to talk about moving him down, but staying at number 1 is Christopher Bell for me.
Yeah, mine's a little different. My top stays the same though with Christopher Bell. I'll go ahead and spoil that because finishing second, and I would even argue as long as he gets a top 5 next week, unless it's maybe Hamlin, I don't know. We'll have to get there, I suppose, but I still got Bell at the top of mine. At the bottom, at number 5, I have Denny Hamlin. He snuck in with his win. And then I have Bubba Wallace. He was 5th on mine last week, so I moved him up to the 4 spot. I knocked out Alex Bowman because that was really self-inflicted. They had speed, sure, but some poor strategy really did them in, and that's just what's going to happen. Kyle Larson in the 5 is my number 3, which I leave William Byron still in second. This guy is leading the point standing still. A rough week this week, an finish last week, so I get why Josh moved him down. It's going to take another finish next week for me to officially take Byron off the second place spot, but for now he stays in second, and like I mentioned, Christopher Bell at the top of my power rankings. But Bull, it's been a week since we've heard yours, so I'm curious to see how yours have switched around, if at all.
Mine is very similar to Josh's.
Mm-hmm.
My honorable mention is going to be Elliott. At my number 5 spot, I'm going to have Bubba. And then the rest of mine are exactly the same as Josh. Byron at 4, Hamlin at 3, Larson at 2, and Bell at 1. If it wasn't for the second place finish, I think Larson probably would have passed Bell.
I agree on that. Well, I believe that is oh wait, we got Bull's going to have us guess a driver, is it?
Yeah, so before I do that, I wasn't on last week, so I got to bring something up.
Go right ahead.
How did you all let Kyle Larson drop to the 3rd pick at Homestead? I don't understand that. I just got to ask that question.
I forget, who did I take? I took Bell.
You took Bell, and then Josh took Reddick.
So I believe in the numbers have shown that Reddick is pretty darn good in Miami. It's always been the track that they talked about when Homestead was the championship race. Reddick would have the benefit of that being the case. Also, I just wasn't thinking. Clearly, it should have been Larson. Had I known he was racing all 3, I definitely would have fell in your trap. I would have bet him to win all 3. I just didn't pay attention enough to look forward to that. So I need to start doing that ahead of time. But yeah, no, that was just a mishap on me. But I still would have took Reddick.
It's one of those things you could tell I instantly regretted it because I ended up taking Kyle Larson as my race winner. And I like literally, I think if you look closely on my face, you can kind of see when I take the pick, I'm like, wait a minute, why didn't I just pick him first overall? But it is what it is. We did it. We had to keep the trend of Ben getting Larson and Byron. And guess what? We finally take away Larson and Byron, and he scores 22 points. So
yeah.
that's the
now
secret.
I'm in first place, and I'm sharing the stats online.
Yeah, it's great. This dude, I looked through, has not liked a single scoreboard all season long. And I post the score this week, like and retweet, quote tweet. Like, oh, okay. But whatever, we'll see.
No, so back to the original. So I was looking at Darlington, and I found this very interesting. I'm going to read you 3 drivers' stats from Darlington, and I want you to see if you can tell me who they are.
Okay.
So the first one, 14 starts, 2 wins, 5 top 5s, and 8 top 10s. The second one also has 14 starts, 1 win, 7 top 5s, and 9 top 10s. And the third one has 16 starts, 0 wins, 0 top 5s, and 3 top 10s.
So these got to be older drivers, I'm assuming.
I'm trying to do that. That's what I'm trying to do the math on, because Darlington's only been a 2-race thing for about 3 years now.
So something tells me we've been talking about these guys a lot. So I bet somewhere in there is Kyle Busch, somewhere in there is Brad Kay, and then I don't know who the third driver would be. So I'm going to say the guy with 2 wins is Brad Kay.
It is not.
Ooh.
I'm stuck
I'll give you the 3 drivers.
Okay.
The 3 drivers is Kyle Larson.
Okay, I knew one that was him.
Ryan Blaney and Eric Jones.
Oh, so Eric Jones has 2 wins for sure, right?
Eric Jones is the one with 2 wins,
yes,
5 top 5s, and 8 top 10s in 14 starts.
He's really good at that track. You know, Bull, you should have waited till like Friday or something to do this, because I already had planned on taking him early.
Kyle Larson is Ryan Blaney, 16 starts, 0 wins, 0 top 5s, and 3 top 10s.
That's crazy to me.
I can't wait for Ben to take him. And I just smile because he didn't watch the Tuesday episode of the Slide Drop podcast. Because I sure saw him taking him after hearing that.
I was looking and I was like, I could not believe, just looking through the stats for Darlington.
Eric Jones is really good at this track.
Is.
I mean, he won there with Petty GMS on speed.
And his throwback scheme is awesome.
We will be talking about that.
I didn't get the throwback schemes together. I just realized that. I was going to have us rate some throwback schemes. Maybe we still save them for another for next week or something like that. If we retroactively rate or something like that. Man, I blame Denny. I was too depressed after Denny won and Josh got 100 points. But yeah, I like that. Where I got hung up was I was trying to think of when Darlington, how many races would be, which one would be their first one. That's where I got hung up on, but yeah, that checks out now. Well, is there anything else you guys want to get out? Bull, we got to get your pick for this week. Maybe you already alluded to it in your guess, or what do you got?
I don't know if he can win, but I'm going to say Eric Jones. I think you got to keep an eye on him. In the equipment that he's, as you said, he won with Petty GMS. I think you got to keep an eye on him. In previous picks, when I've done this, I've picked Kyle Larson or Tyler Reddick. I'm going to go a little curveball and pick Eric Jones.
Okay. As long as he's not getting docked points and DF'd.
Yes, that's the only thing that would hold me back is the fact that he had that penalty last week. Or
let's just
yesterday.
Hopefully he makes weight.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Well, other than that, is there anything you guys want to get out before we wrap up the show?
No, I'm good.
All right, Bull.
I'm good.
All right. Well, we'll see you all on Friday where we give our Fast 5 picks and hopefully eat a little bit of Josh's lead. Josh doesn't seem to think so. But be sure to leave a like, hit that subscribe button if y'all enjoy pumping out 2 episodes a week. I will give a little hint on the what if is getting close. I just finished part 1. Have to do a little bit of quality checking, make sure everything is fine. So part 1, I want to make sure I have both parts complete before I post anything. So once that comes out, once I finish part 2, I'll let you all know and have the release date and all that stuff out. So pretty excited. It's a pretty crazy one. It's a little slow start, but once we get to like the 2019, 2020s, it gets pretty wild. Probably the most wild one that I've done yet. So be sure, me and Chenry, of course, did that. I can't not, because he's the one who comes up with all the crazy ideas. I'm just like, yeah, I guess that works. But anyways, so maybe dust up on some of the old what ifs if you guys are bored for the next couple of weeks till we get out that new one. And yeah, be sure to follow us on Twitter at LFC_99 for me, at JNorth1989 for Josh, and at Bull_81818. I will see you all in the next one. Peace.